Hi, it's me, Paul Dalzell. I am the worship coordinator of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Charleston. Welcome all of you, our members, our friends, and if this is your first time here, or your first time here in a while, we welcome you and thank you for joining us. We come together today to worship on the lands of the Shawnee, Cherokee, Delaware, and Iroquois nations used, including the Seneca and Mingo, used as hunting grounds. Before that, the Adena culture flourished in this area from about 1000 to 200 BCE. That culture is responsible for the remarkable earthwork burial mounds, like the Creole Mound in South Charleston. We should also acknowledge that we are on land that was once a slave plantation, as was most of this land west of the Elk River, although at that time in Charleston proper, which was east of the Elk, most households had at least one house slave. You came here looking for something this morning. It might have been a connection with others, a community, a place to ground yourself, inspiration, or refuge from a world gone mad. Whatever brought you here, we are glad it did. Today's Unitarian Universalists are non-creedal, deliberately pluralist, and unambiguously and unapologetically progressive. We believe everyone has inherent worth and dignity, and that everything is interconnected. The crux of this faith is to do good and get better. When we gather to worship in this place with all of our differences, we shape what is of worth to us. To gather in community, to sing together, to listen, and to find peace. Please know that all of us welcome you. And we typically do that in song. Please join us in singing our welcome song. We sing it through twice. And if you feel comfortable doing so, greet those around you with a smile, a nod, or a hello. The words are in your order of service and on the screens.
Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you.
Please check your insert for goings-on here at UUC this coming week and in the near future. I am going to butcher this word. It may not be the only one this service. Lugnasad. Join us this Sunday, August 2nd at 1 p.m. for Lugnasad and our ritual on the UUC lawn. This is from Spiral Moon Grove. All are welcome. Please join us. And we're going to keep pumping this one. Save a Life Day, packing for 2026, will happen right here at UUC during the week of August 11th through August 16th. A detailed schedule is in the weekly newsletter and is included in your order of service. We are relying on multiple volunteers to turn UUC into the Save a Life Day beginning for the entire country. Last year, right from this room, we shipped hundreds of boxes of life-saving supplies to multiple counties in every state in this nation. Absolutely. Please come and help that week. whether it's for an hour or a day, if you are able. And if not, plan to attend our day of service for Save a Life Day on Sunday, August 16th, so that you can be a part of this truly monumental occasion. We'll now begin the formal worship service with our chalice lighting. This morning, we have Why We're Here by Eric Walker Wickstrom. Please read it in unison with me as Maria lights our chalice. Oh God. Here today, in this place, with these people, may we listen so that we can hear. May we hear so that we can feel. Y'all can join in. May we feel so that we can know, and may we know so that we can change ourselves and this world. May this chalice we light our way. Now, if you would, please rise in voice, body, or spirit, as you are willing and able, for our first song for all, For the Weaving of Our Lives. It's by Amanda Eudice Kessler, and the lyrics will be on the screens.
This is from our new hymnal, but it's a very familiar tune. It's just with some updated words.
For the weaving of our lives, for the bloom of joy and grace, warmth of love that holds our hearts, weft of faith we add each day. All creation hears our song. We are woven, kind and strong. For the thread that each of us offers to the world's design, fabric of 1,000 hues, heart and hand and soul and mind. All creation hears our prayer as we weave a world of care. For the web that binds us all, gently in its tangled skein, babies cry and prophets call, strands of peace and strands of pain. Dear creation, may that we yet repair your
For many of us, what makes us special is that we are a community. By sharing our joys and our celebrations, our sorrows and our concerns, our peace and our needs, our community becomes closer and stronger. And that is the community we all need in these times. For joys, a wonderful visit with Carol S. and Laura B. at Carol's house Friday. It was a house full of important memories. And from Anonymous, my kids are home from the beach. I had a quiet week without them. This, which Raj did write down and was made sure that we read it. He was referred to the MAS clinic in Columbus after 33 years since diagnosis. And such severe back pain, he can't hardly no more. Also, Tanya Van Adder and Tracy Strickland's son was struck by a car while on his way to work riding his e-bike. He is in the CICU, is on a ventilator, several skull and face fractures, and brain bleeds. He will remain on a vent today at least. Also, please send thoughts, vibes, and prayers to Zachary Martell. He's going to a heart surgeon appointment Thursday in regards to having a tumor removed. For all these joys and sorrows, both spoken and those that remain in our hearts unspoken, may we remember that shared joy is multiplied and shared sadness is diminished. Now we have our first treat for you. The day after I had asked our previously scheduled speaker to come today to speak was the last showing of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. His musical guest was David Byrne with his Y in the Sky band, and this is one of the songs they played. It fit perfectly on that show, and I decided that it would fit just as perfectly in this service. So in place of a reading today, we have this video. So I did wear my blue shirt. I didn't have pants to match. And I do not dance as well as Stephen Colbert. I'm more like a David Byrne dancer. Thank you. Please join me in reading our covenant to each other. It is in your order of service and will be on the screens. Love is the spirit of our faith, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Our offering words today are What We're Doing Here Matters by Sarah Stone. What we're doing here matters. In a world that can feel disconnected, this is a place where people choose to show up for one another, to listen, to care, to build something real together. This community is sustained not just by beliefs, but by participation, by the ways we give, our time, our presence, our talent, and yes, our money. This offering is one way we can practice that. One way we say, we will take care of this place and we will take care of each other. If you are able, we invite you to give generously and in a way that feels meaningful to you. Jamie?
Hearts unfolding is the weaving of our faith.
Agape source we're then inclined to hold our song. The trumpets call to be compassion guides our way. We are sunshine in the streets, singing justice. We are spirits hands and feet. Being loved, we are young and rays of light. The soul's revealing verse and love's unending stream. heartstrings of the Spirit calling to our ear. Our love for all creation leads us to rise up. We give our one life to the greatest truth we see. We are sunshine in the streets,
Singing justice, we are spirits, hands, and feet. Being loved, we are held that shines of light. Shining freedom, we are open hearts and minds. Being love.
Thank you. Come on. That was great. Let's take a moment to sit and breathe, to meditate, to ponder, to pray, but most of all to sit here with one another in community. Please relax in your chairs. Plant your feet on the floor. Square your shoulders. Feel free to close your eyes or unfocus them or gaze into our chalice flame. Breathe. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Settle into this moment, this space. We, you and I, are in between right now. In between what was and what will be. In between who we were and who we will become. In between letting go and embracing. In between saying hello and saying goodbye. In betweenness, it's a thing. In betweenness is a time of fullness, a time of anticipation, a time of hope, a time of worry, a time of sadness. In betweenness is a time of waiting. Waiting for news, waiting for departure, waiting for arrival, waiting for death, waiting for life. In betweenness is a time of transformation, a time of reflection, a time of action, a time of growing, a time of becoming. During this time of in-betweenness, of knowing and not knowing, let us enter into silence together. Our next treat for you is our special guest speaker. Please join me in welcoming Archana Narasimhan.
Just going to get set up here. I am short but on heels, so we'll see how this works. Let me know if... Yeah, but then I might stumble in my anxiety. Okay, everybody can hear me? All right. Firstly, I am grateful that you are here and listening online, choosing to be present with a very serious topic, and grateful that you are making the space for me to be the presenter. Know that it takes a great degree of vulnerability to mention my own experiences and my own identities as I relate to these themes as we go along. There are some things I've never mentioned in a public forum such as this, and I'm trusting that this is still a safe space to do so, but even more so, placing trust that the YouTube video later becomes part of the fabric of my positive growth stories and nothing more. It's kind of the theme. I'm also grateful for your vulnerability, because such a topic could bring forth strong emotions and painful memories, whether you're someone who has created harm or experienced it, and spoiler alert, the thing is, we are all both, harmers and the harmed. We're human. We make mistakes and we grow, and unfortunately or fortunately, that's just what life is going to be. So I'm grateful that you are sitting with that difficult truth, and because it's me and you can already tell this is going to be an interactive experience, I'm grateful that you're choosing still to be with us today. Please take care of yourself through this sermon in whatever ways are suitable. Take breaks, do whatever you need to do. The reason I'm giving this sermon today is that I'm tired. So we'll start with my emotion, and please relate however you need to feel. I'm tired, I'm angry, I'm unable to do what I want to do and what I can do to help my community. And perhaps you feel this way too. I've been an organizer in Charleston for a couple of years, but I've organized and volunteered in community engagement and social services since college over a decade ago. Now I'm aging myself. Nevermore have I felt both solidly equipped with the skills and knowledge to organize, and at the same time completely incapable of making anything happen. The life cycle of organizations, described by Dr. Ichak Idezis, shows that when organizations and corporations reach their unified goal or their mission at their peak and don't have supportive structures in place to maintain that plateau and the common goal, they start to fall into dwindling membership rates, and the goal becomes splintered into many directions, and interpersonal issues arise and replace the larger organization goals. So fewer people, more focus on those issues between those people. 90% of my energy and time have gone to relational repair in interpersonal conflicts within organizations in this city. And I'm just not going to do it anymore. This isn't me retiring, we're talking here about my thought process. I considered stepping away completely though, and then I realized this is not just a me problem, it's a Charleston community problem. So, bad news, it's your problem, and that's what we're working with today, and why I'm ultimately asking for your help. Like I mentioned in my blurb, if you read it, follow-up questions are welcome, but it's with the invitation to get prepared to be vulnerable and co-create those answers together, because that's what we are. We're a community. So if you're hurting, I'm hurting, and vice versa, and I hope that you remember that. Where spirituality and science find contention is values versus materialization of those values. That is, somebody might believe in their culture or their religion as punishment for a method of progress, punitive measures. Somebody might believe in redemption always, forgiveness always, no matter what's going on. Now, the contention ends where one actually works, right? So what works? I found nothing in my literature review, exhaustive medical searching and clinical studies, everything, to suggest that public shaming or cancel culture or any of that is actually useful for change in chronic ways. But I can't prove a negative, as everybody says. It's an annoying and harrowing phrase. So what I can indeed otherwise do is to share how shame is impactful and how better to do the whole thing. This community practices harm reduction because it's evidence-based. It works. There's research to inform our organizations. It's why we rally, and it's why we go and explain to people in power our thoughts, and we keep doing it. It works. So if we use the evidence that we've been gathering and researching to determine how we approach addiction, unhoused conditions, poverty, healthcare, why don't we use evidence when we're deciding how to respond to people who are creating harm? Does shame actually change people, or is it really just giving us an amorphous feeling of justice has been done, which is a temporary feeling? And is shaming part of harm reduction, or does it actually create and increase harm? So the reason that I'm talking about any of this is that I wanted to investigate the effectiveness of punitive measures alongside more transformative methods to affect individual and systemic change. Cancel culture, sort of loosely defined by myself and people feel free to jump in if you have a different meaning. It's socially discarding a person for bad behavior that is culturally set, ranging from interpersonal conflict, that is like words exchanged, could become physical, to severe criminal activity. That can involve blackballing from certain events, membership to organizations or communities from further work, as in somebody ending their career entirely because of it, doxing them, which is releasing the whereabouts and dwelling and place of occupation of this person who has done the thing, social media posts to shame them publicly and get the word out, and then getting the word out, which sounds less harmful but is absolutely so, spreading that news by word of mouth throughout a community, i.e. gossip. So as a student of social transformation in a certificate program through the Wilmot Institute, it's a Baha'i-run organization, and building towards a master's in science in Ayurveda, which is the science of life according to Indian medicine. The intersection for that, for me, in this context, is healing not just the body, but communities. Social transformation of ourselves within our communities. When an organ in the body is diseased, you heal it the best you can. If it's gone far enough, of course. Surgery and removal is an option, but it's your body. You don't exile an organ normally. That's not how we think of it. We don't remove it from its power of what function it performs without a proportionate response planned. That is a replacement kidney. That is replacement hormones. Whatever it is that would be proportionate. Medical literature, clinical trials, psychological frameworks, therapeutic models, sociological studies, organizational science, philosophy, spiritual traditions, and personal experience all inform this integrated talk. Why do I even say that? Because it took a lot for me to even say this. I wanted to be open. I wanted to be open to, okay, maybe punitive measures work. I mean, what do I know, right? I'm not in the social justice system. I haven't seen all that. But I asked around. I asked around into the research. What does that research show? Repeated activation of stress systems lead to, this is a long list, it's going to be like the prescription ads that come at the bottom of your screen. Cardiovascular strain, elevated cortisol levels, inflammation, elevated blood pressure, impaired immunity, poorer wound healing, digestive dysfunction, which can lead to rapid weight gain or loss, sleep disruption, impaired memory, emotional dysregulation, depression, anxiety, PTSD, substance misuse, eating disorders, chronic pain, suicidality. By the way, that's from a research book titled Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. So it's starting to look like it isn't working, right? At least that's what I was thinking. So I referred back to a book that I have relied on through my own periods of shame. Dr. Brene Brown, researcher, it's honestly a great novel that you have to read. It's a long book name, so I will at the end tell you what it is. But she's discovered that shame is one of the hardest things for people to talk about. Their own shame, other people's shame, it all makes us uncomfortable. And what she realized through all of her studies is there's a couple of phrases that kind of distills it best. Shame says, I am bad. Guilt says, I did something bad. So, interactive part, you're going to hate me after all this. Let's try this together. Feel through both of your statements here. I am bad. I did something bad. Okay, now, stamp your foot on the ground. If it's okay with the puppy, I should check. Okay. Stamp your foot on the ground, everybody. Okay. Shh. You shouldn't have made that much noise. We just talked about the puppy. Now, feel through it again. Wrong, actually. Feel through the statement. I feel bad. I am bad. How does that feel? Sit with it. Now, feel, I did something bad. Does anybody's feeling change? Is it radically changed? Okay, release, because y'all didn't do anything wrong. I intentionally worded that so that it would be confusing, I intentionally misled you, and I intentionally didn't tell you what volume you should be stamping your foot at or which foot. Through confusion and communication issues, we're gonna mess up, or we're gonna feel like we messed up. And the product of that is I am bad as shame. A person, bad, because they stamped their foot wrong in the wrong place, as if I'm conducting you in a choir. And would that even be bad? So, shame versus guilt, a huge, huge disparity there. And shame predicts withdrawal, hiding, defensiveness, depression. Guilt is more going to predict apology, repair, empathy, because there's space there to actually do something with the action. Shame activates chronic stress physiology, the HPA axis, cortisol, inflammation, we talked about all this, and it causes a global devaluation of the self and global disordering of the body. That is your entire, I don't know why we say global, but it's your planet, right? It's your whole world. It's disordered. So when you think of it and you're in your next interaction with somebody and you don't love the way they made you feel, and I mean, we all do these things. I don't know, it might be a stretch, but think about it, because whatever your response to them is could impact their next step. Now, should you take all that on? Maybe. Maybe if they have impacted you to that level, absolutely. You felt their impact, you have an impact that you're able to respond with, right? And I would most certainly, personally speaking, not want to cause kidney failure because I publicly shamed somebody. Guilt is temporary, not chronic, and it's action-oriented. So a psych review on moral emotions and moral behavior shared that shame causes people to disappear and guilt inspires them to repair. So I'm not telling you to let anybody off the hook for bad behavior. That is absolutely never what I'm gonna say. I hold people accountable. Please don't, get there with that thinking, because we have to hold each other accountable. That's what the community is, right? We love each other through our faults as well. I am saying, however, get curious. When something happens that doesn't feel comfortable, get curious, make sure it happened, especially if it's something you're hearing. Educate where possible, educate if you're healthy enough and you can. And then if you have the ability to confront the person, rather than jumping online, rather than spreading it as a rumor, rather than doing all kinds of things that could get the person's career in jeopardy, all that, make the person feel guilty. I'm telling you, make them feel guilty. Because then they'll be thusly ready to act. Confront the person's behaviors, not shaming that person. People become identified with their worst mistake. Now, this part's a little bit about me, so we're going to switch a little bit, but I'm taking quite the stand here. I've been saying these things for a couple years, kind of on the low, kind of within my community, doing the repair, like I said earlier. I'm putting myself out there now, like this is on YouTube. I'm not going to take lightly to becoming a victim of this myself. I thought about paralyzing this sermon in script form and stripping it of its spontaneity and not getting to really talk to you all and look you in the eyes and like really be here. I wanted to do this based on energy and intuition and y'all's energy. I didn't want to flatline it with no life-giving phrases, no hope, just so that it could be ripped apart later, Don't do that to yourself. If you're finding yourself in any position of ever feeling shame, don't let the possibility of shame or its existence reduce your whole personality and way of moving in the world into a shell of yourself. I'll instead invite discussion, which, that's what I said, like, feel free. Questions after, find me, yes.
Archana,
Yes.
your words are so full of thought, for us to internalize. Can you talk just a little
Oh, sure. Yeah, I sure can. Thank you. I was worried I'd be keeping you all too long. Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you. Just like that, speaking up. I love it. Okay. Yeah, if I instead invite discussion on all of this and clarification if somebody finds more updated research one day. The world is evolving. The research is constantly changing. So if you find something out there that says, this is the way to do it, this shame is actually useful, this is how, tell me, talk to me. I would love to hear that. What I don't want is snippets of this YouTube video later finding itself online and going, oh, she is actually an apologist. She thinks that these harmful actions, are okay. I'm not saying this because it isn't happening. I'm saying it's because it's happening, unfortunately. And I won't be called an apologist or somebody who's holding up people just so they can harm others. We can get into direct circumstances if you're really willing to engage in open, two-way conversation. But people in this community have called each other flying monkeys. And I would love to say right now that is a racist term. We're all here generally visual, probably. I'm a brown girl. Racist term. Let's not call each other flying monkeys because you don't agree with how a community is trying to correct somebody's behavior. We're trying to support people and get them back into the work that we're doing. That's the whole point of this sermon. It's not really just to feel all my feelings in front of you. It's because all this bogs it down. When are we going to get back? When am I going to get back to organizing things that matter, that actually get out there and do the change, do the systemic change? Because we're doing only individual change at a time. It's very hard, right, to then organize people to go to City Hall and talk. So I'll give a few more examples of what's going on without naming names. Someone warned people against a man because he has weird vibes. What I mean by that is, you're not hanging out with that person, right? Why? What's wrong? Oh, well, I just never liked him because he has weird vibes. That's the actual quotation to me. This is my experience. Yeah, that's the same reason I was bullied in school, y'all, for being different, for being other, for being weird. And I didn't even have red hair then, or side-shaped. So imagine now. Imagine being uncomfortable in canceling somebody. I'm uncomfortable right now. I could cancel myself. Is that going to work? People have been running wild with the telephone game, calling people all kinds of things. It's gone to the level of calling people sexual predators because they can see, and I've got air quotes going, how a guy who rubs me the wrong way would do that. So did he rub you the wrong way, physically? Then what are we talking about? And I'm not going to get too much more serious, hopefully, than this. This is barely a message for the folks in the room. I'm preaching to the choir, right? But if the people I know and if the people I don't know kill themselves over this, I'll do a lot more than make you feel uncomfortable. And I hope that I have the backing of my community when I say that. So let's move on to some just literature stuff. It's between the haves and have-nots, right? It's people in power versus people not in power. It always comes down to classism. It always comes down to these kinds of isms. But when we're nitpicking progress within people in the grassroots movements, it's slowing down our climb. And everybody here is kind of on the same page. I mean, it's baked into our service. We want unity. We want love. We want freedom. We want these feelings, but we also want the material change. What are we doing? Tearing down people because, you've helped bring the resources to hundreds of disadvantaged folks, but I don't like your tone. I don't like my own tone right now. But that doesn't change anything. Actual change changes it. Actual talking to that person. Hey, can we do this better? How do we do this better? Bringing ideas, and if you can't brainstorm the ideas, not required to change everything at once. But nitpicking that progress and calling people isms, ists, hey, you're a racist because, be sure that they're truly there. Just correct what's going on in the moment. I'm not saying you can't call people out, right? We talked about this. Call people out in that way, but there is actually a different way to do that calling out. I would love to go around talking trash about someone who's harmed me just to get that feeling off of me, just to kind of outsource it. But is it because I'm really helping anything, or is it what I said, right? Trying to get that feeling off of me. So just think about that before it happens. And think about that too for the people who are doing it. It's probably because they're feeling harmed, right? It's probably because they're hurting. So it's the switch. So I'm railing against one thing, but I'm really not. I'm also inviting you to open your mind to why this stuff is happening, because the harm has been created. Now, if I did go around talking trash about somebody, and less about the harm and less about what to do about it, but more about just how I don't like the guy, after that, I just wouldn't call myself an organizer, y'all. I just wouldn't call myself a harm reductionist. I wouldn't say that I care about restorative justice, because you have to be consistent with your philosophy. That's what you're asking the other person to do. You got to do that to yourself. So it's kind of like screaming about the use of AI, and then yet you're actually, perhaps, self-plagiarizing. Like the comments that you're using each time to call people out is the same template, and perhaps also AI generated. And if not, you're literally just replacing names for who you're calling out, but the same template is, hey, I hate you, you did this thing. That's self-plagiarism. In the academia world, that doesn't fly either. So let's be consistent with what we're doing. There's a different theory that I've come up with now, and I'd love for somebody to challenge this, because, again, I want to learn. But I've been talking to some folks about this, some organizers, and I do feel like marginalizing somebody in the way of using cancel culture to do this is stemming from racism. So stick with me here. Outright bigotry isn't cool or permissible anymore in the progressive realm, right? Like, we look at that as something absolutely harmful. We know how to talk about it. The terminology's all there, and we're learning every day. But it's now, I think, becoming distilled into hating one person at a time who appears to go against those progressive values. So you messed up. You messed up and called somebody something out of a joke, it didn't land well, or you didn't know that we don't use the word gypsy anymore. Now you're canceled, instead of being educated. Or perhaps the person who is dealing with this doesn't have the energy to educate them. I'm not asking that they do that. But I am asking them not to suddenly find that energy in publicly shaming them and saying, this person's a racist, this person deserves blah, 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 blah. I don't understand what that would do for the people you have been trying to protect. The Romani people, the Indian diaspora people. What are you doing for them? So, I do think that there's something about that hatred that we all just need to find within ourselves and release. It's a constant thing. Again, we're humans, we make mistakes. It's pretty much going to come back to the same themes, right? So we have to look within. There's going to be hatred there that combats the love, because love is what we really are. Everything else is that other stuff. So we have to kind of weed away. And I think that it comes out in, hey, if I attack this guy who's against my values, then perhaps I'll be better than him. It's a feeling of wanting to take your power away because they want the power. They might not step into the role. That would actually be helpful, you know. Take the role, take the mic. Somebody else finish the speech. But is that what they're doing? No, they're taking the power in that moment to feel like they've done something, instead of educating me that I shouldn't have said gypsy, right? So, sure, know what makes the community bristle. Know what makes everybody feel uncomfortable. Know what is offending. Place your finger on the pulse of society. But in that power, be careful not to constrict blood flow. There is a description by someone who realized, personal account by someone online, who realized that the person who had harmed them had become remorseful and was becoming accountable, but it was through the public shaming. They had to go get help and figure it all out. Okay, so this person who was writing this column was saying, you know what, it's a bottomless pit of always wanting more accountability, because it just doesn't feel like justice when you're harmed. The public shaming is coming again from this sort of what was described as a stomachless dragon, just constantly trying to eat away, eat more, consume more of that pain that you've now caused in the other person for hurting you. More uncomfy stuff. I was raped. In my rage, I wanted that man to suffer. In my peace, I simply just don't want rape to exist as an option. I just don't want him to do it again. I just don't want anybody else to get hurt. One of those is a temporary condition, the rage. Peace, that's just who we actually are beneath everything. And I want to add that none of what I'm addressing is Pritt level behaviors, okay? Like that's just come up in the news, like we're not talking about that kind of stuff. That's rising to the level of crime. We're not talking about that. We're talking about things that don't. Things that are more like rubbing each other the wrong way, stepping on my foot, maybe even intentionally. Things that are not a crime. So what is it doing when we talked about shame versus guilt in the person that's getting harmed, the person that's getting accused of the harm, shame versus guilt in them, we should also talk about what shame versus guilt does in the person who's doing the accusing, who's saying, hey, this person harmed me. To use the shame system, they're also part of the system now. They're getting a dopamine hit versus having that prefrontal cortex being the one on drive, having the processing before the speaking, before the shaming action. So they're entering into a cycle as well. And they're fueling their reward system like a donut lights up your dopamine, like saying hello to somebody you actually like. They're trying to get that feeling from shaming because they don't like that person. I'm not saying the harm didn't exist. Again, the harm could have existed. But what is the solution in all this? Simply taking a moment before the action, before they shame, before they do something that in the same way they had wished the people they're about to shame should have done before their action to them, right? So nuance is really what we're talking about. We're talking about case-by-case basis. We're talking about delaying the sureness, the certainty long enough to understand what your reality is a little bit more accurately before you act, before you tell somebody that this person is a sexual predator, this person is this. Did it happen? Is it happening? Do we need to really warn people about harm? And if so, do. But if not, you're actually creating more harm. Feelings deserve curiosity, not immediate certainty. So let's talk about the ableism that we were talking about, being in marginalizing might come out of racism, might come out of internalized systemic stuff. Another internalized systemic stuff is ableism. What about these poor social skills and social anxiety that might lead to somebody blurting out things that they shouldn't have or whatever it is? I mean, this is, again, cancel culture is coming from things that society has decided is not okay. Now, we can get into the semantics, and we can also get into the philosophy of what harm really is and whether or not I should consider somebody who kills another person harmful. Like, some people would say that's obvious. We can get into that debate another sermon. But the important thing is the culture has decided certain things. The culture has decided we don't call people this or that anymore. So if that has changed, the language has changed, and we're trying to be even more graceful than we were before. Perhaps there was a period where we were learning, but that's not, we're even further now, we're more progressive. That's awesome. But what about poor social skills involved in this? What about somebody who has not been able to have access to that research or to that knowledge or to a friend group who could educate them, to simple exposure to the outside? What about neurodivergency? I personally evaluate the couple folks that I've seen affected by what we're talking about today as being neurodivergent. Strong statement. But I mean it when I say there's been misrepresentation of their actions and an unwillingness to see past their social identities to who they really are. And that feels very ableist, not to just stand back and say, perhaps there's something else going on here. Perhaps when I'm rambling, neurodivergence, And y'all are giving me the space to do that. I'm grateful for that. So anybody who hasn't been, we just hope that they will, that they learn to give that space, that they learn to speak up when they need me to slow down. I remembered in that moment. So I can't imagine my autistic family members trying out jokes on me and then me canceling them for it, or God forbid other people, because that would be permanent. I can't imagine, and have checked them where necessary. And I've checked myself, and they've checked me. Do the kinder and more transformative thing. Public shaming was phased out in 1839. What about when public executions were phased out? I don't have the date on that, but it's been a while, y'all. It's been a while since these public kind of shaming type of rituals had been such a mainstay of our lives, had been like literally a cookout. You would go and enjoy a hot dog and watch somebody hang. I mean, it's crazy. We're past that. But somehow, while not directly influenced by those things, and while not directly influenced by the kind of thought of all sin is equal and awful, every sin is measured the same. This is where it's coming from, though, right? I mean, you can at least see the logic. All sin is equal has been misunderstood to mean that we can judge everyone poorly for every action, instead of trying to emphasize good intentions and impact and care with action and spiritual discipline, because that's what it was really about. If every sin is equally harmful, we're just supposed to be more intentional. We're supposed to be more disciplined spiritually. So let's get into spirituality, because that's really why we're here. I know people can change. I know they do change because I changed. Change is real. And many of the recent accusations have to do with those ist labels like we talked about, misogynist, racist. No one is perfect upon birth. And absolutely no one is free from microaggressions in this society. And let's all release that together in this moment, because quite literally it's been established as structures, as a requirement for you to fit in and survive in this society. But people learn. We've unlearned those behaviors. I had internalized racist ideology, looking like this, internalized misogyny, and I was homophobic when I was younger. I didn't act out on it as far as I know, but I was young and I could have. There was severe judgment in my mind, and that's where it starts. Thinking that stuff's okay, thinking that's normal. It took exposure to and experiences with queer folk to understand myself and the community better. Now, I'm implying some things heavily here, and I hope you're catching the nuance without me saying it. I'm a self-aware ally, let's just say, and some other things. I am required to believe people can change because I did. My own journey, as I said in the blurb, is from self-hatred, that's where it started, leading into bigotry for others. Self-hatred started here, then I started hating everybody else. Then I learned to recognize oneness, that we're all the same underneath all of this, underneath these little costumes we wear as bodies. And then that finally got me back full circle to myself, and I had to deal with, oh, all right, do I love myself? Okay, all right, fine, I love myself. It took a while. It took like last year, like literally. Why does this matter? Communities are going to become what they practice. Just like a person repeatedly practices something and becomes that. I was practicing self-hatred, so I became hatred. Communities practicing marginalizing people and shunning them and telling them they shouldn't have this or that because of this, but not actually correcting the behavior, yada, yada, yada. You get the drift. That's what they become. We're not progressive communities anymore. We're not even doing the work, like I said. So, instead of burnout and interpersonal conflict replacing the shared purpose, how are we going to get back to that purpose? How are we also, big red flag, going to serve the underserved communities that are supposed to feel safe and have felt safe so far, to recover from their own harm, from things that have been going on in their whole life? They're separated from this community because society has actually segregated them. By poverty, by classism, by the fact that they are using drugs, all of the things. How are they going to feel safe? So the majority of us, and we've heard it in the service, are folks who have had a good hand in helping with the supplies and the resource making and the helping people find that light. They're people who use drugs. I'm having to say something kind of bold here on camera. It's an illegal activity. They're doing it because they know they need to not have withdrawal, because the evidence shows that if they don't use safer resources that we're providing them, the best that we can, that they could die, that they might not ever get a chance to even go to recovery. They're trying to get through today so they can get through tomorrow so they can get to that day when maybe perhaps they do find a way that's healthier, that is on the other side of all this. And they might not make that journey, and they might not want that journey. I mean, there's so many things here, but we're giving them a chance, and that's the hope. But how are they even going to feel safe to take that chance? I would not feel safe, and in fact have not been feeling safe, and that's why it's taken so long for me to speak out about these things, to enter even UUC. If I didn't know that we're talking about this stuff, we're going to do something about it. And instead, what would I feel if I was like, oh, but if I was handing a needle to somebody in the wrong places and the wrong times and could go to jail and blah, 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 but also like I said a thing and somebody might hate me for it and they might, you see where I'm going with this? Like I could get publicly shamed and then they can go after my safety. And that's just me with a ton of privilege being able to say all this. What about the communities that we're serving that need to know that they're safe enough to enter the room, to be able to grab the supplies, to be able to make it to the next day? Do we want HIV to go down or not, is what it's boiling down to. Do we want people to live or not? It affects us all. So, that recovery takes psychological safety, and the community needs that. So we need to talk about proportionate responses. And removal of somebody from power, that could protect. But it doesn't alone guarantee any sort of transformation. So you have to be talking about proportional movements here. Burning something down is not ever going to be the same as just building through it and building something better. Now, do you have to burn down certain things? There's the Prit name again. Sometimes you have to remove people. And sometimes that's not what's happening because it's not criminal activity and it's not something that's causing so much harm that we can't get through that. And the other part of that we're talking about harm reduction, where is the harm reduction in removing people and not actually channeling change? You're not ensuring anything. So when we believe in harm reduction for folks who are using drugs, we need to believe that for ourselves. We need to believe in change for ourselves if we believe in it for them. Otherwise, you have different goals. Otherwise, you're talking about punishing. Otherwise, you're talking about doing something very different than what shame can be used as. And there's a tiny sliver of this where it can be used as a tool, because anything can be used as a tool or a weapon wielded accordingly. Shame is aggression. It's a punch. It's not useful all the time, and it's only useful in the critical, active moments of something going down in that moment. So I won't get into this very long. I had to shame some racists in the street a few weeks ago. I think it's been a month now. Right here in Charleston, they were using some bad judgment, and I had to disarm their words and create power through raising awareness. I had to be loud enough so other people could gather, so that I couldn't be in harm by raising that awareness. They needed to stop doing what they were doing, but it helped me to acutely manage the situation. It was in that moment. I didn't get on Facebook afterwards and blast the scene and talk about who they were and do all the I didn't investigate where they work. None of that mattered because it was handled right then and there. People were around to see what happened. And what am I trying to do? Manage their recovery from their hatred? I can't do that. I can't ensure that they're absolutely going to not be a bigot. And I can't ensure that they didn't have a moment where they just lost it and used poor judgment. So, it can be a tool, but it needs to be proportionate to the act. And in John Ronson's So You've Been Publicly Shamed, public shaming works when the forum used to commit that original sin is also public. If somebody's publicly shaming other people, public shaming helps, right? That's a 1-to-1 ratio there. If somebody is calling me a bunch of horrible words, then me calling that person out on Facebook probably will work because they're using Facebook as that tool. So meet them in the arena where it's happening. But we're not talking about the same thing in this community. We're talking about things that have happened interpersonally that are being taken to Facebook, that are being blown out of proportion, and catching fire because we simply don't like people sometimes. And that isn't proportionate. So, I apologize, this is going to be, I think, the last uncomfortable thing. I hope. This sermon is currently replacing one, right? That sermon was going to be about the book that I just mentioned, so you've been publicly shamed. And personal experiences of overcoming shame messily and learning lessons, importantly. The title of that sermon was Admittedly Unfortunate, and warned at a time. Not an accurate reflection of the content of the sermon. That was my main gripe with it. It's not accurate. Led to being judged by its cover. So, how would I know any of that? Am I a mind reader? Am I just totally biased? I simply asked. I simply got curious. I simply did the things that I'm talking about. And I'm not perfect, but it did the damn thing. Move from calling out toward calling in. So that's where we're coming to. Stop calling out, start calling in. Tribes did that. That's our foundation. You don't exile people automatically. You make sure that that makes sense. You need everybody. And I know it seems like we don't need everybody because there's so many people. Wrong. We absolutely heal and work through issues together. We absolutely need each other. It's a family. It's a family times however many. And you have to remember that. So, corrective relational experiences, practiced while encountering triggers and temptations, that's what allows for change. That is, not exiling people and not telling them what's going on, calling them in, allowing them to be in the moment, be able to encounter those triggers and temptations, and have a pretty heavy watch on them, of course. You're correcting people. Now, this is what's done whenever safety is possible, and I'm saying it is. I was in an abusive relationship a long time ago that started when I was barely 18. I became reactively abusive to my abuser. What helped? Therapy and learning tools, and also being in safe environments and being able to practice better judgment and be safely corrected too, knowing what my triggers would be so that I wasn't reactively abusing. Not just staying away from people, not just saying, well, dating's not for me, I guess I'm a bad guy, I guess I am bad, instead of I did a bad thing. So instead of us commodifying change in an industrial situation where people are so plentiful that we can just toss them away, conditional love. Instead, I guess what I'm asking for is true love, true, unconditional, godly love. And that takes a lot more commitment. It takes a lot more soul searching. It takes a lot of work on our own part. Now, there's a lot of different spiritual things that we could go through, and I'm totally running past my time, so I probably shouldn't. But there's a lot of ways to go about seeing oneness. You're going to get there. It's oneness. It's the thing that's the fabric of our consciousness. Find your way to that. Use the dark night of the soul, use these things that are harrowing. If you are the subject of these, harmful situations, use that moment. The harm's already been created, right? So there's nothing we can do about that particular part. We can restore the relations, we can do what we can to restore what's been taken. But then you are still sitting with that thing that's been hurting you. So at that point, make the best of what you can from your learning now. Learn that this is an experience you've had, translate that to something that you don't have to put on somebody else. I'm running through the rest of it. Sorry. If we can, imagine someone, anyone in this room, you can pick me, I'm at the center, see all of my differences. See everything right now that you think is different from who you feel you are. Just take a minute. You don't have to take too long. Now, move radically to shared qualities. What about us is the same? What about you and the person that you've chosen is the same? Oh my God, is everyone looking at me? We've got a lot shared, I promise. And if nothing else, start with the fact that you're both wearing skin over your soul. That's all we are. Get creative, though. Maybe we don't have the same hair dye, but maybe we have hair dye. Recognize the shared humanity beneath that difference. That's how we get to oneness. So I say this because I'm not saying any of y'all have done anything wrong, but you've been harmed, surely, because society, man. At the very least, we can see how these things come about and then be able to talk to our friends who perhaps are doing the public shaming, who perhaps are harmed and can't speak out, whatever it is that's continuing this perpetual cycle. And for the shamed, for the people who have been in horrible positions, who are actually seeking accountability, that's important. Do that. Work through the effects of the shame on yourself. Ronson had called shame private and personal in that book. So make it public in the sense of if you can't fully say something publicly, understand that, like we did just now, we're one. You're not alone. It feels private, it feels like you need to disappear, don't disappear. We're here. Be like the flower that gives its fragrance when crushed. That's for everybody. We're all crushed at different times in our lives. Don't stop being the flower. Don't stop giving the beauties that you have within you. Do what you can with that. That's a Sophie quote, attributed to not anyone I know. But understand that this is all part of our human experience. Surround yourself, very importantly, with people who will call you in. We're all going to make mistakes. Make sure that you're in a safe environment at least often, if not all the time, so that they do call you in, so that they say, hey, Archana, that wasn't the right thing to say. This is why. Not everybody's going to have that energy. Find yourself some people who can. Okay. I have an exercise later for everybody who wants to, because this has gone on for a long time, but basically what I'm asking is, I would love for us to be a community that is accountable, compassionate, nuanced, and hopeful. I'm not saying there's no work going on. There's absolutely work, but it's getting bogged down. So let's lift ourselves up, let's move through it together, let's call people in. And help me. Call your people in. And if I've done something in this sermon that strikes you as inaccurate, wrong info, not updated, please let me know. I might not have the resources, or I might just be ignorant. Come on, it happens. So please let me know, approach me, call me in. And if I only find out about it through social media, if you call me out, I promise I'll call you in. Well, actually, I'll probably meet you on the form that you chose because that's what works, because that's what the research shows. So, everybody do an indulgence, final indulgence. What are we going to do the next time someone harms someone else around us? We won't call it out. We will call it. Thank you. Really appreciate the time, you all. Thank you. Stop it. Stop it. I'm running away now.
Whew. It's great. Let's sing again. I invite you to rise in voice, body, or spirit as you are willing and able. Our last song for all, it's number 1007. There's a river flowing through my soul. The words will be here or in your hymnals.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's telling me that I'm And it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind.
Please be seated for closing words. May you leave this time together changed. May the promises you have made to yourself about who you want to be feel closer to the reality of who you are right now. May you share that feeling of transformation wherever you go. May it spread into every word, deed, thought, and interaction until we are all changed, transformed, and transforming together, becoming our better selves. The music makers will now perform our postlude.
All shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. All shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. All shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well.
Let's sing our recessional together. As I extinguish the chalice, this will end our formal time of worship together. And a quick announcement before I do that. Aurora and Piper were wed in a lovely ceremony here yesterday. We are the beneficiaries of the food remaining from the celebratory meal. So please join us in the web room to share the food and the joy.